G'day and welcome to the Larry Lakers Dribbling Chit Chat Show number 3. We've had plenty of chit chat reports from our listeners, and we've got plenty to get through today. The Lakers launch versus the champs. They'll take on Denver in the very first game of the season, and we've got news of what the Christmas game will be as well. For Australians, there'll be no Dellie on the telly. What are we going to do? The World Cup warms up with more games tonight and tomorrow night for the US, and some games coming up for the Australian team. Giddy's dad, it turns out Giddy's dad could play. Josh Giddey's dad, it turns out, was a banger himself. We're going to find out a bit about that in the history of basketball. Our listeners ask many questions. One of the tough ones this time was, who are the all-time nut truckers? All of that and much more on the Larry Lakers Dribbling Chit Chat Show. Well, we know who the Lakers are going to launch the season against. It turns out it's going to be against the Denver Nuggets. What a team. That should be a great lineup. And what a clever way for the NBA to get the ratings up. A little bit sneaky. But look, everyone will line up. They'll want to see Denver on the very first day. How's the new lineup now that they've lost Brown? Can they get a lot more out of the other man who looks like it's spelled like Braun, but it really is Brown? The rookie, Christian Brown. Let's see how he goes and whether they can fill out the rest of the roster since they've had a few changes, and can they compete again, or will there be any sort of hangover from the championship for the Denver Nuggets? And what will the new Lakers look like? That's probably the most exciting thing we want to know, and we look forward to that very, very, very much. People are counting down the days until pre-season, and we're looking for any sort of basketball we can get to fill ourselves on, including the World Cup until then. But the Larry Lakers, the real Lakers, will be playing Denver to launch the season. Other news that's come out, of course, though, is the very highly rated NBA Christmas games. Not everyone likes to play on Christmas Day in Australia, but over there in the States, everyone wants to get out and have a little bit of, get themselves on the TV for the ratings. Highly rated are the NBA Christmas games. And on Christmas Day, the Celtics will play the Lakers. Now, you would think such long-time rivals would play each other all the time on Christmas Day, because that would really get the ratings up. But it's the first time in 15 years that the Lakers are going to play the Celtics on Christmas Day. World Cup warm-ups, and they continue in the next 48 hours. There's some great games coming up. The USA, featuring the Lakers' very own Austin Reeves, has won their first game 117-74, and Austin got on and looked very handy, looked like a spark plug off the bench. We talked about what a chameleon he is, that he seems to be able to mix with any level of player. As the players around him and the occasion gets better, he seems to lift his game and blend right in. Great job, Austin Reeves. Coming up tonight and tomorrow, Slovenia. So Luka Doncic, that'll be great one to have a look at. And he loves to play for his country, really puts in. Not every superstar is available to play for their country in these sort of games. So especially after a big season and a big load, and he takes on a bigger load for his own country. And he really will be one to watch because he can turn the game around by himself, and nearly did against Australia in the Olympics there when it was the game for the bronze medal. He's one to watch, most certainly, and we look forward to seeing Slovenia. Spain's a high-quality team, as is Greece. So the US has been able to get 4 high-quality warm-up games leading into the World Cup that's on within the next 10 days, probably a fortnight. It's on the 25th of August. For Australians, having looked at the US in the World Cup warm-ups, what about no Dellie on the telly for our Australian friends? In the 3 warm-up games against Venezuela, Brazil, South Sudan. These games are going to be in Melbourne. They're on August the 14th, so Monday night in the Australian Caper, the 16th and 17th. So they're in pretty quick succession, those games. But Dellie has been cut from the squad. The veteran, the man who's won a championship there with the Cleveland Cavaliers, a very feisty guard, 6'3", went to St Mary's College there in the States, and a college that's produced quite a good line of Australian players who've gone on to play in the NBA, including our own Patty Mills. The squad has got Xavier Cooks, who was the Sydney Kings MVP in the NBL in Australia, and has gone on to get a contract there with the Washington Wizards. He's played a bit of the Summer League and a couple of late games in the season late last year. Dyson Daniels is with the Pelicans. One to watch. Dante Exum is returning. Now, that's a real comeback story. It was highly rated and highly regarded earlier in his career. Drafted quite high up in the NBA, but didn't quite perform there at Utah. A little bit injury prone. Got traded, and I think he had a little bit of time with Houston, and was eventually let go, and has been sort of recouping and making a comeback there to gain competition readiness and build up his career whilst playing in Europe, and has been doing so well. Good on him. What a story for Dante Exum. He's back. He's got an opportunity now to play for the Dallas Mavericks this year. They've got him back in the NBA. So how exciting for Dante Exum. We hope he goes well. He was part of the team for the Boomers that won at the Olympics. And let's look at our next player, Josh Giddey, of course, who's highly regarded with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he's been a real eye-opener, I think, for Americans. He's very canny with the ball, fairly tall, pretty smart player, pretty classy, and that will bring something to the side. He was in the fringe of the squad last year, just before the Olympics, and they just decided to play him in the warm-up games and leave him out of the Olympic squad because he was so young. He hadn't been drafted at that stage in the NBA, and his work since has gone from strength to strength. So we really look forward to seeing Josh Giddey. People will be tuning in and high expectations, a bit of pressure, so I hope he goes well. Chris Goulding plays in the NBL for the Melbourne team and has shown flashes of brilliance in the past. Can hit the very athletic jump shot from 3-point and slash to the basket. Hasn't quite hooked on with any NBA teams, had a couple of summer league runs. Josh Green has emerged as a strong defender with the Dallas Mavericks. Joe Ingles, everyone knows his story this year with the Orlando Magic, I believe. Last year, after an ACL big injury, and he made the big comeback there when it looked like his career might be over. He came back to play with the Milwaukee Bucks and produced pretty well on a contract there. Nick Kay is from Tamworth, New South Wales. Nick Kay, he was one of the go-to players that the coach liked in the first ever bronze medal in the Olympics for Australia. Jock Landale, it looks like just about the main centre that's returning for the team from that bronze medal team. Patty Mills, who's been shipped around a little bit in the off-season there with trades. He's got one of those contracts that's just about the right amount there to match the mid-level exception there, a little over around the $5 million. So very tempting contract to add if you're packaging something up to trade for other players. So Patty Mills has been shifted around a couple of times, hasn't had time to pack his bags and turn up to his new employer before he's been shipped off again and traded again in the NBA. But it looks like he's settled there at the moment with the Atlanta Hawks. I hope he gets a run there because he could be good there coming on to give Trae Young a spell. He's still a live wire, only 6 foot, but a spark, as we know, full of energy and loves to play for Australia. What a hero he was in those games in the Olympics. Duop Breath plays overseas. I think he's playing in Serbia. And Matisse Thybulle, as we know, plays for Portland and previously with the 76ers. Great defender, made a real difference in Australia being able to gain a bronze medal there at the Olympics. Jack White with Denver last year, but with Oklahoma in a trade there. Didn't see much in the way of minutes. That's possibly why the trade came about, but we hope he gets to hook up and get on the court with Josh Giddey whilst playing there at Oklahoma this year. So the FIBA World Cup, it's kicking off in 3 sites: Philippines, Japan, Indonesia, starting on August the 25th. So people are counting down. They're counting down to the NBA season. Those of us who need a little bit of basketball, it's coming. It's coming in about 12 to 14 days, depending where you are. And, of course, when you're listening. Now, let's talking about the listeners. Why don't they get in to the Larry Lakers at Gmail and send us a question? Well, we've got a mailbag full of questions. One of them's come in from Jumping Jack at Foley. Jumping Jack's pointed out that in the great game in Australia, rugby league, people who cart the ball up, so trying to get a territorial gain, as you do in the NFL, is a pretty brave and arduous work to cart the ball up. Sometimes you lose meters, and those who do it time and time again, and they play both ways. So those who play on offense tackle as well. As you can see in some of the images, it doesn't always work out that favourably. But who are your all-time nut truckers? Now, I had to look it up. Didn't know what a nut trucker was, but it turns out it's a person who can carry the ball up a bit like a bulldozer or a truck and just be willing to cart the ball up no matter how hard the opposition is. Now, who are our all-time favourites? Jumping Jack at Foley, our all-time favourite nut truckers. If I was talking about the Lakers and I'm looking at the previous pictures you sent us in about rugby league in Australia, I'd have to go with this man pictured, Kurt Rambis. He was a hero back in the 80s for the Lakers. We have to start with our own Kurt Rambis. He'd have to be one of the very best and willing to take a bit of hard work for the team, take a hit for the team. Mitch Kupchak, similarly in the Lakers history. AC Green, I think he held records as the Iron Man for the most games in a row in the NBA for a long, long time. He's a person who came in probably at the end of the Kurt Rambis era and after Mitch Kupchak, and played a long, long time there for the Lakers, and was willing to just bump away and do the hard work that's required sometimes in the NBA. Dennis Rodman, if I had to look at people who, he played for the Lakers sporadically right at the end of his career. He had a tiny little run with the Lakers. Might not have been his best, but his figures, they might surprise you. Charles Oakley's certainly one that was a hard man that played for Chicago and the New York Knicks. They'd be some of my favourites, Jumping Jack. A lot of them there with a Lakers connection, but some of them that we'd have to honour in the history. There's a few more though. If you're talking about Dennis Rodman, this is a breakdown of his career. So early on, he's built up his rebounding, a little undersized as a power forward, but that's the sort of person I think you're asking about, Foley. It's players like Dennis Rodman. And you can see there, he started there in 86-87 with the Pistons. He's won 5 titles, and played with different teams. So he's won them with the Pistons and he's won them with the Bulls. And very late in his career there, it's a pity we didn't get to see too much of him. But in 98-99, he was still averaging 11 rebounds a game. And he had a little run there with the Mavericks in 99-2000, and he was still averaging a massive 14 rebounds a game. What a player. So who would I rate in this regard in the modern era, Jumping Jack? Well, I would go for Draymond Green. Again, someone who's a little undersized, got a great long reach, as you can see in the footage, but willing to get in and mix it up, put his body on the line for his team. A little more skilled at putting the ball on the floor, a lot more than players like Dennis Rodman, in that he could get the rebound, put it on the floor and start off the fast break and pull off an assist. He's a player who surprises many with his passing ability, really quite sparks the offense, but just like Dennis Rodman, willing to mark the opposition's biggest player, centre, sometimes came on and really mixed us up with players like Nikola Jokic at 7 foot when he might only be 6'6", 6'7", or 6'8" himself. Look, rebounds, you can see that he's a very good rebounder. He can also hit the three-point shot. It's probably lucky we didn't see Dennis Rodman, or his coaches might be lucky that he didn't take too many three-point shots. But someone like Draymond Green there, he would be my modern-day example of, did you call it there, jumping jack, a nut trucker. And a champion one at that. Josh Giddey's dad, while we're on the topic, jumping jack, I thought we'd have a flashback for jumping jack. The Oklahoma City Thunder's Josh Giddey, highly regarded for his finesse, well, his dad was a power player. He was a power forward, just like the Dennis Rodmans, just like the Draymond Greens. A little undersized at 6'5" in the league, 225 pounds, but he bumped away there for a long, long time. He played he played a lot of games there, career 1987 to 2002, all playing in the power forward spot. He's played for the Hawks and the Tigers, and he's won 2 titles. 2 titles there, 93 and 97. And to show how highly regarded he is in Australia, he's number 6 there, was retired by the Melbourne Tigers. That's a team that features a legend many NBA people would know, and many of our listeners and followers in the United States, and that's Andrew Gaze, who had a little run there with Seton Hall, the Washington Bullets, and the San Antonio Spurs. More dribbling chit-chat. So the mailbag was full this week. People are sending them in to the Larry Lakers at Gmail. Look, Dazzler at the Tigers Forever, he had a plethora of questions. Let's concentrate on one that's probably the most NBA-related question. Will Ben Simmons do anything this year? And will he even take a shot? Well, Daryl, that's a good question. Ben Simmons, every off-season, video comes out of Ben Simmons doing great things, hitting three-pointers, playing in things like the Drew League, running around and looking spectacular, and then the season starts and it doesn't seem to happen that way. So we have high hopes yet again. It's another off season. The Brooklyn Nets report he's training very well. He's had back surgery in the past. He's playing well. Beautiful defender. Now, your question, Daryl, will he take a shot? I wonder if it's time that we just relax on the shots and just think, play. Just get on the court and play. Don't overthink the shooting. Defend, rebound, pass, initiate the offense. A bit like Draymond Green that we spoke of before. Can pull a rebound off the backboard, put it on the floor, lead the offense up as a big player, and pass it to a cutting player for a dunk. And if he could just catch it and dunk himself from time to time as he slashes to the basket, that might be enough for a while. And then we'll find out about the shot. Maybe build on that later. But I think the first thing to do, Daryl, is just get on the court. Don't worry about the shooting. Let's just play. He's 26. He's got 2 years. $78 million is left. So he's got... people might trade him. If I don't know if anyone would want 2 seasons, but he might be traded as an expiring contract, so somebody might be able to offload or load a team that's looking to get some money that's expiring and maybe pass up. But Brooklyn probably doesn't want a lot of players that they don't need either. So a difficult one there. The best way I would think about it is get on the court. Just get on the court and have a run. Try and find a little bit of joy, a little bit of fluidity, and don't worry about the shooting. Let it come. Look, there's players that haven't been great shooters in teams before, and maybe be willing to play a little bit more at forward or a small ball centre. So that way we could maybe get around that lack of shooting. But today's game, the perimeter shooting, very important. And to have more than one player on the floor that's not a shooter, very difficult as you progress towards the finals in today's game. But let's just go through the regular season and try and get on the floor, please. Ben Simmons. Another question here is from a very young listener who himself has a podcast, Caesar Salad. He asks, will Austin Reeves ever play in the finals? Now, that's a great question. And I think it's going to be, in the short term, connected to the man that's also here in the picture. I think his career in terms of finals will go, of course, as LeBron goes. So the short term, it looks like LeBron's certainly here this season. Then there's talk of his perhaps trying to go to a team to play with his son. Of course, he's had the heart scare recently with his son. So we hope everything's well there and that he gets to play anywhere. If he's not drafted, that might work out. It might work out that the Lakers, perhaps as a favour, I'm sure it would be as a legit player, they might be able to get Bronny over to play for the Lakers as perhaps a two-way contract or something. But you'd like to think, or you might think there could be a cunning team out there that might think, hey, I'll pick this guy up in the second round, and that way I'm an outside chance of getting the Lakers to give me too much for this player as a trade, or maybe LeBron will come over and play for us just because we've got Bronny. So the temptation to draft LeBron's son might be out there. So what would happen with Austin? He's got a contract that could go past the time that LeBron is here at the Lakers. So his future, getting into the finals immediately, would be trying to load a team up, because the years and time left with LeBron aren't very long in terms of his age and players who potentially decline and the amount of contract time left. So tied to LeBron, I'd imagine, in the short term. And then how will the Lakers build if there is, in the next year or two, a post-LeBron era? And what would happen then? I imagine there'd be pressure after they lost Alex Caruso without very clever trades or for very much. They would hate to lose Austin Reeves. So I imagine they're under great pressure this year to keep Austin in the fold. And I imagine there'd still be pressure even if there was a rebuild or a whole lot of changes post-LeBron. But for that reason, I think if Austin's to appear in finals, he'll go, and the Lakers will probably go as LeBron goes in the next season, possibly even two. We've got plenty more in the mailbag. We've got plenty more in the mailbag, and we'll try and answer them on the podcast. Thank you for all your questions. Please keep sending them in. Please keep liking, subscribing, giving us a review on things like Apple iTunes. And please find us on your favourite podcast platform. We'll put the podcast down. We'll try and answer more of people's questions in the podcast. But Jumping Jack Foley, that question about the people who are willing to cart the ball up in the parallels to his own game there, rugby league. Who are those that are willing to take a knock and put their body on the line for the team? Great to see some of those in Laker history, NBA history, the NBA today, and a throwback. Josh Giddey's dad, Warwick. He could play. He was a man who really played at power forward for his team for a lot of years. Interesting, the juxtaposition that Josh is a player of such finesse when his dad was such a player of physicality. Most Australians will be interested to watch that and to see them in the World Cup. A couple of games coming up that we touched on there. Enjoy those games while you can. Until next time, you've been listening to the Larry Lakers. Please send us a message at thelarrylakers@gmail.com and catch our podcast. We look forward to catching you next episode. Have a good week.